community radio station. Your life, your music. KLEK 102.5 FM.
Good Thursday morning, Jonesboro. This is meteorologist Tim Root with your KLEK 102.5 forecast. Colder air coming in from the northwest. That'll merge with a little bit of moisture over the area. A few rain or snow showers for a while this morning, then partial clearing during the afternoon. And the high, 38 to 44. A north wind, 10 to 20. It'll be chilly tonight, 22 to 26 for the low. Mostly clear, breezy. The wind chill in the mid-teens. Friday should be partly to mostly sunny near 40. Jonesboro, that's your KLEK 102.5 FM weather.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. Police in Germany are investigating the circumstances of a suspected far-right terror attack on 2 shisha bars. Lesotho's Prime Minister Thomas Tabane is being charged with murdering his estranged wife. The airline Air France KLM's warning the coronavirus outbreak will wipe as much as $216 million from its earnings. And officials in the DRC have discovered the 5 bodies of people taken hostage by a militia group that attacked their village earlier this week.
It's 9:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Thursday to you. I hope that you're having a great start to your day. You're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. My special guests today are members from the Arkansas State, faculty and staff from the Arkansas State University Museum. We have Dr. Marty Allen, and we have Ms. Jill Carey. Thank you for joining us this morning.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us, Camilla.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get right into our conversation because today is an abbreviated show, and we want to make sure to get in as many things as possible, all the exciting things that are happening at the museum. With this being Black History Month, you all have some really great exhibits and things happening, so go ahead and tell us about that.
Okay. Well, ASU Museum has 2 really spectacular contributions to Black History Month at A-State this year. I do want to emphasize that we're just a couple of many wonderful things that are going on. So, but we would particularly want to talk about ours because one of them is tonight.
Okay.
And this is a lecture by Dr. Carl Hegstrom Miller from the University of Virginia McIntyre Department of Music.
Okay.
And he's going to be, he wrote this book called Segregating Sound, which is a very interesting book about how to categorize music, how people today categorize music in racial terms, and why that started, when that started, which is a fascinating study. And it's highly commended, and I believe he got an award for it. Anyway, he's going to be talking tonight from 3 to 5 at ASU Museum in our auditorium on hearing, race, and region in popular music. So it's going to be very interesting. It really opens up this question of, is music really black or white, or is that a construction?
Wow.
So anyway, so that's going to happen today. And of course, and we can talk a little bit more, but I want to get these out there first.
Okay.
And we also have the traveling exhibition called For All the World to See. And this is an exhibition about the civil rights movement and how images like photographs, magazines, paper, newspaper, television, and so forth, how people would use images to help shape the American perceptions, and really basically many people who were complacent about the horrors, the horrific things that were happening during the civil rights to African Americans. These images helped wake people up to the horrors of what was going on.
Wow.
So this is moving. This is a significant thing. It's very good to read about. And I also need to say we only have these things thanks to Dr. Maurice Gibson who is the director of A-State's Office of Diversity and Community Engagement. So we want to make sure we thank him. So, and again, these activities these two things, our lecture and this exhibition, are part of a whole calendar of things that you can read all about at astate.edu/BHM2020.
Right.
So, anyway, did you have specific questions? How can we go on about our lecture and how excited we are about it?
I want to go back to that because I have a degree in sociology, and so when you talked about how is the idea of music being black and white a social construct, that really sparked my interest, because I know that over the course of, as societies were developed, there were always these constructs put in place to separate, define, categorize people into these sanctions, and over time it's like we get so comfortable or complacent with those sanctions, and oftentimes we don't challenge the status quo. I would really love to hear this lecture and how music became how it became categorized as it is, and like what can we do. I don't know if the lecturer will pose a question. I guess you have to go here.
And people can ask questions. Well, he's not saying this is a fact. He's posing this as a theory, that this is actually an academic construct, not so much a social construct originally, but which then was accepted widely and became fact, like a self-fulfilling prophecy is what he's suggesting. So what he maintains is that his research basically shows that it was in the late 1880s and early 1890s and going into the early 20th century that this idea that music was black or white or otherwise ethnically based. Actually, before these times, he shows anyone could, do soul music or whatever. Anyone could do whatever. I mean, it was very it was fluid across racial lines. Anyone could do it. But of course, as you know, in the late 19th century, this is when the sexes were, the races were mandated to be separate but equal and all this. And so what he is saying is that folklorists mainly and those sorts of disciplines started attaching racial belongingness to different musical styles, and that coincided with the political thinking about races needed to be equal. Needed to be separate but equal. And then, as it happened, this way of looking at music became a very useful marketing tool for people who sold music, basically. So then now they can say target African American population for the black music, and then country is white music, and and then just grew from there and just basically became accepted. So I'm not saying I buy into it. I'm simply saying, well, is that interesting or what? Because if that is really something that could have happened, then we need to take a look at that. But I think almost anyone would agree that by now people do see this is black music, this is white music. They do see that. Although of course you have in performances you have people who are crossing the racial lines, but and even in our rockabilly exhibition, which really ties in with For All the World to See because of the time period. Of course, rockabilly came out in the 1950s, and that was its heyday. And after that, there really wasn't much rockabilly per se left. So, anyway, in our rockabilly exhibition, we talk about the Northeast Arkansas story of rockabilly, and of course, rockabilly owes a huge debt to black music, and also to every pre-existing music, but especially to black music. I think it's an interesting tie-in with our exhibition, the For All the World to See. And For All the World to See is going to go on through March 16th, so you've still got just about a month to see it.
Right.
I'm sure Jill has a lot to put in here.
Well, you've been doing really good.
I'm sorry, I sort of hogged it all. Because when I was studying the rockabilly exhibition, I came across Segregating Sound. Actually, it was Dr. Sharice Jones-Brads who said, "Why don't you read this book?" I hadn't heard of that book, and so it just opened up a whole new dimension for me of interpreting rockabilly music and music in general and everything.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about Arkansas State University. Each department, even though separate, you all work together to bring a variety of enriching lectures, projects, displays, whatever it is, not just for the students, but for the community of Jonesboro as a whole. So I'm sorry, Miss Jill.
It's true. No, you're right. I was agreeing with you.
Would you like to add in your, what has been your observation watching the people come through the different exhibits that are there so far?
For all the world to see?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're seeing a lot of older teens and college students walking through. And one thing that is really good to see is when they approach an exhibit and it's set up like small exhibits.
Okay.
And ones that you walk all the way around to see, and you don't want to miss anything. But they start at the front, and then they start moving, and then they become thoughtful. They slow down. They stop speeding through what they're reading. They actually get closer to the exhibit, and they dive in. Pretty much, they are getting it, and it's an amazing way that I think that people, the folks who put this together, have told a story. And it pretty much has a beginning, middle, and end.
Okay.
Maybe not so much an end, but this is to be continued. Because this, and we also have an exhibit, if you will, of a old typewriter made in the 70s that people can type what they would like for the world to see. Mm. What do people need to see now? And they type, and then they put their message on a board that's right behind it. And also we have an iPad in the hallway, that the little breezeway between the exhibit and the rest of the museum, where people can put in their thoughts. We would really just like. The question is your thoughts.
Okay.
What are your thoughts about what you've just seen? And some of the things that people have said has been pretty astounding.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just started a media literacy class 1st of February, and thinking about the exhibit, looking at mass communication from years past and the images that were portrayed, and thinking about mass communication now, are we so far removed from what was then to now? Like, I know the time and technology has changed, but are we still seeing similarities in what was displayed then when it comes to presenting a certain message based on a bias or perception of one group of people, not just race necessarily, race, gender, religion, whatever?
I think that people pretty much, laws change to make things change, but attitudes are passed down from generation to generation. And I think some of those that weren't nipped in the bud still exists today. You're right.
But I think that anyone who has studied the impact of images in society, where they're even more impactful now, because you can spread them around in so many different ways. And in fact, people are really now looking more at images than they are words.
Yes.
Less reading, more reacting to what you see immediately without delving into closely. Due to social media and changing views on formal education, I think, actually.
Mm-hmm. All right, so hopefully this exhibit will get people to, like you said, slow down and pay attention and think about then versus now, and then how we can shift our attitudes and thought processes concerning what is being displayed.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of the comments that we've gotten from the iPad survey deal with, wow, this kind of thing was really going on. These people who didn't live during that time, these are the younger generations, and they're appalled at what they're seeing. And then people who in their surveys have said, yes, I was around during that time, and things have changed, but things need to change more. This is an ongoing process. There's still a long ways to go.
Wow.
And there are folks that are of say, for example, my age. I was born in the 60s.
Okay.
And there are folks who were born in the 60s or who were teenagers in the 60s, white kids who just weren't paying attention.
Okay.
You know, they were either being shielded from it by their parents. They lived in a whole different world, and they were not faced with the problems that were going on, and the struggle that people were having for equality, and all the ways that they were being denied this equality. And you know, I actually have had a conversation with someone who said, I know it was happening, but I really didn't. You know, he said I didn't pay any attention. He's like, I was a kid, you know, wasn't paying attention. And he said, this is really good, because he was saying, you know, the things that he missed, that he learned later was happening right under his nose. You know, it's kind of a wake up call, you know, to actually start paying attention.
Well, I definitely just want to say thank you again to you all at the museum for bringing exhibits like this to raise awareness and consciousness of history, and not just Black history, just history, period. Because this is just one of many exhibits that you all will bring throughout the course of the year, you know. So thank you all for your foresight and for bringing something like this to help people dive deeper into themselves, hopefully, as well as they're walking through. And the students, hopefully they are taking something deeper away from this than just, oh, it's a display of history. It's something deeper than that. Like, how can we as human beings, as civilians of this world, do better by each other, period, no matter, again, race, religion, gender, whatever the case may be.
One thing I think is, you know, a lot of folks say, you know, that you know, there's the only race is the human race, which is, in a way, they're saying that to be good. Okay. But I think that maybe we need to look at it a little differently and realize, because we need to appreciate what people have gone through. We need to say, okay, yeah, maybe it's not been the same for everybody. You know, it's not been the same for them. And yes, the only race should be the human race, but it's not always been that way. And maybe it's still not always that way, and we need to strive to make it so.
Without forgetting the roots of all these different races.
Right.
Yeah, I know that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
But that makes a rich tapestry of culture. I mean, if we were nothing but if we were all from the same race or culture or whatever, think how quite dull that would be.
Yes.
You know, I mean, because of all these different backgrounds, we have a really exciting and diverse society.
But to appreciate those diversities as something welcoming and something to admire.
Not something to say, oh, this is different and unwelcome and bad or something.
Yes, but just to pull those in and appreciate those, I think that's going to help us to live in peace with everybody.
And that kind of segues, I know you all are here talking about the museum, but I want to remind everyone there is a Diversity and Inclusion Conference coming up this Friday on the campus of Arkansas State University at the new, what is the building called? The new, is it Embassy?
Humanities?
No, the hotel, convention center.
The convention center.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So there is a diversity and inclusion event or conference happening then. Gotcha. So there's more information on the Arkansas State website. But anywho, I want to say good morning to Dr. Sharice Jones-Branch, who's checking in. She says good morning to three of my favorite people.
Oh, right back at you.
And good morning to Lachey Robinson and everyone else that is listening and watching. So again, tonight let's recap as we're getting ready to wind down. Let's recap the date, time, and location of the lecture and who the speaker is. Okay,
today from 3 to 5 o'clock at the Arkansas State University Museum's auditorium, we're going to have Dr. Carl Hagstrom Miller speak on the topic of hearing, race, and region in popular music.
Wow.
And that will be at our museum today from 3 to 5. And then for, since late January and now continuing through March 16th, we have the traveling exhibit by NEH on the Road, and the Mid-America Arts Alliance. It's called For All the World to See, and it's about civil rights movements and images that help shape people's perspectives on
what was going on.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Yeah. And then is there something else that's coming up before March or before maybe you all can get back in here to talk? Are there any other... I want to definitely remind people of the Rockabilly exhibit as well.
Oh, yes. That was last August. It's been very impactful. A lot of people, a lot of new audiences have come in to see this. Mm-hmm. We, of course, had worked on that for 8 years, and so finally we got this up. And that's actually quite an exciting exhibit. We're quite proud of that. So that's one reason, having Dr. Carl Hagstrom Miller come to the museum to talk on this topic, it really... It brings to life the Rockabilly exhibit, and also For All the World to See, because he's talking about such an important topic about music and how it's been categorized racially, and is that good, or
right.
Is it accurate, or what? I mean, it certainly makes you think. Right? Okay. It certainly makes you think. So,
well, the audience will be invited into the discussion.
Okay.
So people bring your ideas, your thoughts, your research. I mean, just because after he's finished, there's going to be a lot of question answer type of things. So
I'm thinking I would just probably be still in awe and whatever he has to say and just soaking it all up and taking notes. I hope bring some pencil and paper and take notes.
Mm-hmm. Well, his book Segregating Sound is fascinating, and I would recommend everyone read that.
Is it available? Well, are non-students allowed to check out books? They're probably not allowed to check out books in the library.
I don't know.
Okay.
Public library maybe.
Well, if you're interested in reading the book for yourself, see if our public library has it, or maybe Audible or some other online books or so.
Sure.
All right. Well, we thank you all so much for joining us today. Dr. Marty Allen and Ms. Jill Carey from the Arkansas State University Museum. Tell them, we've got 30 seconds. Tell them where you're located.
We are located at 320 University Loop Circle at Arkansas State University.
Yeah.
All right.
It's like it used to be West Circle, and now it's like, well, is it Circle or is it West?
320 University Loop West.
All right.
It technically is. And
you're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Yes.
Right.
We'll be right back.
Does your investment in your kids seem like it's going nowhere? I'm Mark Merrill.